promise me that no one else is going to die?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another classic horror review. Today I'm taking a look at Final Destination that came out in the year 2000. It is co-written and directed by James Wong and it stars Devon Sawa, Ali Carter, Kerr Smith, Kristen Cloak, Sean William Scott and Tony Todd. Right, this film focuses on a group of school kids who are going on a school trip to France. And while boarding the plane to head over to France, Devon Sawa's character, Alex, has a premonition. He has a vision that the plane is going to crash and everyone on board is going to die. He wakes up, insists on leaving the plane. There are some that follow him, 6 in total, for different reasons. Nobody believes him, and then all of a sudden the plane explodes. And from there, Death is not happy. So Death decides to come after those that have cheated their own death on this plane. And it follows its own plan and sequence to take them out one at a time. So they have to figure out Death's plan in order to try and stay alive. Right, what are my thoughts on Final Destination? Well, this, I thought after just finishing my, well, I should have put up my final review for the Nightmare on Elm Street film series for the 2010 remake of the original. So I thought I would move on to another horror franchise. And I thought I would take a look at Final Destination. Now, the Final Destination franchise, so to speak. And it's not a franchise I am massively familiar with. And what I mean by that is I think I've only seen the first 2 or 3. After that, I kind of lost interest. I was one of these back in the day where I always thought as soon as they had a good idea for a horror or anything really, they just milked it to death. And I always thought like the sequels had diminishing returns in quality and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of lost interest. I did it with quite a few. I did it with Paranormal Activities and quite a few more. So I thought I'm going to start revisiting some of these franchises, you know, where certainly the early films impressed me. And Final Destination came to mind. Now this original, when it came out, I remember going to see this at the cinema. And I remember being really impressed with this. I thought it was massively original. And really effective. And very, very clever in many ways. I mean, now when you look back on it, you know, because we've seen films like this, obviously the sequels and other films that have kind of copied its formula here and there, you know, it doesn't feel as impactful now. But at the time, it absolutely, you know, blew audiences away really with its clever approach to horror storytelling. And it is still very, very effective today. There's very few films that I can think of that have such an effective and impactful opening as this film. It definitely gets your attention. You know, the whole sequence where it shows him on the plane and everybody else, and then the terror of the whole plane, you know, going up and he's still on board, and that scene where his kind of face is getting burnt and charred and everybody's getting flown out of the plane, and you know, I mean, real horror stuff going on there. And then he wakes up in a cold sweat and he's like, oh my god, the plane's going to crash. It's so clever how they did that. And then that massive shock when he's off the plane, everybody's kind of arguing with him, and then the boom, the plane goes and the windows shatter. I mean, it's got you. The film has absolutely got you by that point. And the whole idea of death, if you like, you know, or the Grim Reaper, whatever you want to call it. And I think the original idea was to have death in this film to be a little bit more obvious as the entity. But it doesn't need to be. It kind of lets you kind of figure it out for yourself, really, in many, many ways, that it's kind of death that's chasing these people down because they've cheated death's plan for them. And then going after them kind of one at a time in the sequence was so good. And I remember the deaths just being so shocking. Todd in the bathroom, you know, with choking around the thing. I mean, how it does that, you know, obviously the most probably iconic deaths of them all, where she kind of steps in front of the bus. I mean, show me somebody that didn't jump 6 feet out of the seat when that actually happened, and I'll call them a liar, because it absolutely did. The first time you see that scene and not knowing what's coming, you're lying if you say it didn't surprise you and shock you, because it absolutely does. Yes, you could argue it gets a little bit silly by the end, but you could also argue that Death's almost getting desperate by the end because they've figured out his plan. So they can kind of, to some degree, kind of stay one step ahead of Death. So he's kind of getting a little bit more desperate to try and kill off the rest of them. So, and I always really loved as well that scene in this film with Tony Todd, where they go to the morgue to see the friend Todd, and Tony Todd comes out, and he's talking to them about Death and Death's plan, and you know, there was a lot of speculation, you know, that he's Death sort of thing. Is it? Isn't it? You know, I'm not here to kind of say yes to either, I suppose. The film kind of lets you make your own mind up, but I love that bit at the end when he looks at Devon Sawyer's character Alex and says, I'll be seeing you soon," sort of thing. It's just, I love that kind of, you know, innuendo in these sort of films, and the hints, and lets you kind of make your own mind up as to what's going on. So I think this is a really, really well made and creative like horror thriller. I think it stood the test of time really well. It's just at that stage, just before, like, you know, the mobile phone age took over and the internet age took over. It's just at that stage where still, you know, you didn't get them awful exposition scenes of people going on the internet and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't really have any of that really. It still feels pretty raw and grounded, and you know, not one of those films where technology's taken over with the kids and stuff. It's just them focusing on them, trying to stay alive, with some really cool and inventive death scenes. So I had a really good time rewatching this, I'm not going to lie. And I'm actually quite looking forward, certainly, to checking out the upcoming ones. And just remind me in the chat, I believe there has been 5 Final Destination films, and I think there's a 6th one in production now. I could be wrong on that. Please clarify in the comments for me, guys, so that I know what sequence to watch them all in. I know it's fairly obvious that Final Destination 2 and 3 are the next on the list, but yeah. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this franchise. Give me some ideas for some more horror franchises that you guys would like to see me cover after I finish the Final Destination one. I'm considering doing the Paranormal Activities films because I stopped watching them after the 3rd one, I think. But you guys give me some suggestions and I will, of course, take them into consideration. So thanks for joining me for this review. I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.